The Growth of Industry, presented and narrated by Diksha Tevanidi, Sarah Fleming, and Lauren Swenson-Lennox. Due to growing population, improved transportation, and plentiful natural resources, the Industrial Revolution was sparked in America. Inventors contributed by coming up with new ideas and thrusting the growth of industry forward. These new inventions created the foundation for modern-day America. There are many things that contributed to the Industrial Revolution. America's natural resources, like trees, rivers, metals, and minerals, are one factor. The growing population due to high immigration created more jobs and brought specialized workers to the U.S. Unskilled immigrants provided a good labor force needed for growing industry. Transportation was improved, and the railroads, canals, and steamboats allowed for easier shipping and moving of supplies. Banks would lend money, and state and federal governments would use land grants and subsidies, allowing people with new invention ideas to have the resources needed to start or further their business. The business cycle is a pattern of good or bad times in American industry. The prosperous times were called booms, and the bad times were called busts. During booms, investments increased and the people bought more. In the busts, or depressions, spending and investing decreased, and many businesses were forced to fire workers, and as a result, business shrunk. Two destitute times in the business cycle were the panics of 1873 and 1893. During these times, millions of people were out of work, thousands of businesses failed, and railroad production came to a halt. Steel, which used coal, was really expensive before the mid-1800s. In the 1850s, William Kelly and Henry Bessemer came up with and developed a new way to make steel called the Bessemer steel process. This process cut the cost of steel, which increased the nation's steel output by 500 times in 3 years, and many products were then made out of steel instead of iron. Products such as plows, barbed wire, nails, beams for building, and expanding railroads. During the 1800s and by the 1870s, inventors had made more efficient generators. An inventor who found the most ways to work with electricity was Thomas Edison. Edison's laboratory received more than 1,000 U.S. patents. He is credited with creating practical electric lighting, and his most famous invention was the light bulb. Others created light bulbs, but they were either too bright or too dim. Communication devices improved during the 1800s as well. In 1835, Samuel Morse developed the telegraph. The telegraph allowed people to use electrical signals to send messages over long distances. Decades later, Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, which transmitted human speech using electricity. Bell succeeded in March 10, 1876. He accidentally spilled acid on himself while adjusting the transmitter, and he called for help from his assistant, Thomas Watson. The call for help was heard by Watson through the receiver, making, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want you," the first word said on the telephone. At the Centennial Exhibition in Philadelphia in June 1876, Bell introduced his telephone to the world's leading scientists, and they labeled it the greatest marvel ever achieved in electrical science. The telephone accelerated industry, and after the switchboard was invented, more and more people started to connect into a telephone network. Women often worked as switchboard operators and typewriters. Christopher Latham Scholes helped invent the first working typewriter in 1867. He improved the machine and sold it to a manufacturer who duplicated the typewriters in the 1870s. Elias Howe was the first to patent the sewing machine in 1846, and Isaac Singer later patented it and continued to make advancements on the machine. Clothes were ready-made with this invention. They came out in unique styles and standard sizes, meaning more people bought clothes rather than make it themselves. Overall, regardless of the booms and busts, this time period of the growth of industry set a foundation for today's technological improvements.